Chapter 2, verse 11. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashochastvam Prajnavadansh Cha Bhasha Se Gatasunsh Cha Nanushochanti Pandita. The Supreme Lord said, while you speak words of wisdom, you are mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. The wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Starting with this verse, Sri Krishna initiates his discourse with a dramatic opening statement. Arjuna is lamenting for what he feels are very valid reasons. But rather than commiserating with him, Sri Krishna takes the wind out of his arguments. He says, Arjuna, though you may feel you are speaking words of wisdom, you are actually speaking and acting out of ignorance. No possible reason justifies lamentation. The Pandits, those who are wise, never lament, neither for the living nor for the dead. Hence, the grief you visualize in killing your relatives is illusory, and it proves that you are not a Pandit. One does not need to go far into the Gita to find a wise person above lamentation, for Grandsire Bhishma himself was the perfect example. He was a sage who had fathomed the mysteries of life and death and risen above the dualities of circumstances. Serene in any eventuality, he had even consented to taking the side of the wicked if it served the Lord. He thus demonstrated that those who are surrendered to God simply do their duty in all situations without being affected by outcomes. Such persons never lament because they accept all circumstances as God's grace. Chapter 2, verse 12. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam nime jana deepa na chaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayamata param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. On the gate of the temple of Apollo at Delphi are inscribed the words Gnoti Sutun, or know thyself. Viet. Even Socrates, the wise old man of Athens, was fond of encouraging people to inquire into the nature of the self. A local legend goes like this. Once, Socrates was walking on the street, absorbed in deep philosophic contemplation, when he accidentally bumped into someone. That man blurted in annoyance, "Can't you see where you walk? Who are you?" Socrates answered with amusement, "My dear fellow, I have been pondering over that question for the last 40 years. If you ever come to know who I am, please let me know." In the Vedic tradition, whenever divine knowledge is imparted, it usually begins with knowledge of the self. Sri Krishna follows the same approach in the Bhagavad Gita, with a piece of information that would have swept Socrates off his feet. Sri Krishna begins by explaining that the entity that we call the self is really the soul, not the material body, and is eternal, just as God himself is eternal. The Shvetashvatar Upanishad states, Chanyao Dvavaja, Vishanu Shavaja, Hyeka, Bhoktri Bhogyarta, Yukta Anantaschatma, Vishwarupo, Hayakata, Trayam Yada, Vindate Brahmametat. 1.9. 5.9. The above verse states that creation is a combination of three entities, God, soul, and Maya, and all the three entities are eternal. If we believe the soul is eternal, then it follows logically that there is life after death of the material body. Sri Krishna talks about this in the next verse. Chapter 2, verse 13. Dehinosmin yata, dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara, tatha dehantara praptir, thairastatra na muhyati. Just as the embodied soul continuously passes from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, at the time of death, the soul passes into another body. The wise are not deluded by this. With immaculate logic, Sri Krishna establishes the principle of transmigration of the soul from lifetime to lifetime. He explains that in one lifetime itself, we change bodies from childhood to youth to maturity and then to old age. In fact, modern science informs us that cells within the body undergo regeneration. Old cells die away and new ones take their place. It is estimated that within 7 years, practically all the cells of the body change. Further, the molecules within the cells change even more rapidly. With every breath we inhale, oxygen molecules are absorbed into our cells via the metabolic processes, and molecules that were heretofore locked within the cells are released as carbon dioxide. Scientists estimate that in 1 year's time, about 98% of our bodily molecules change. And yet, despite the continual change of the body, we perceive that we are the same person. That is because we are not the material body, but the spiritual soul seated within. In this verse, the word Deha means the body, and Dehai means possessor of the body, or the soul. Sri Krishna draws Arjuna's attention to the fact that since the body is constantly changing, in one lifetime itself, the soul passes through many bodies. Similarly, at the time of death, it passes into another body. Actually, what we term as death in worldly parlance is merely the soul discarding its old dysfunctional body. And what we call birth is the soul taking on a new body elsewhere. This is the principle of reincarnation. Most Oriental philosophies accept this concept of reincarnation. It is an integral part of Hinduism, Jainism, and Sikhism. In Buddhism, the Buddha made references to his past lives repeatedly. Many people do not know the extent to which reincarnation was a part of the belief system of the Occidental philosophies as well. In ancient classical Western religious and philosophic circles, famous thinkers such as Pythagoras, Plato, and Socrates accepted reincarnation to be true, and their views were also reflected in Orphism, Hermeticism, Neoplatonism, Manichaeism, and Gnosticism. Within the mainstream Abrahamic faiths, mystics of the 3 major religions also supported reincarnation. Examples include Jews who studied the Kabbalah, the Christian Cathars, and Muslim Shia sects such as the Alawi Shias and the Druze. For example, amongst Occidental religions, Josephus, the great ancient Jewish historian, used language in his writings that seemed to ascribe belief in some form of reincarnation among the Pharisees and Essenes of his day. Certainly, the Jewish Kabbalah prescribes to the idea of reincarnation as Gilgul Neshamot, or the rolling of the soul. The great Sufi mystic Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi declared, "I died out of the stone and I became a plant. I died out of the plant and became an animal. I died out of the animal and became a man. Why then should I fear to die? When did I grow less by dying? I shall die out of man and shall become an angel." Verse 10. Many of the early Christians believed in the concept of reincarnation. Christian history informs us that in the 553 AD, the Council of Nicaea, a conclave, was held to discuss the principle of reincarnation, and it was thereafter declared a heresy, apparently to increase the authority of the Church over the lives of the people. Until then, it was commonly accepted. Jesus indirectly proclaimed this doctrine when he told his disciples that John the Baptist was Elijah the prophet reincarnated. Matthew 11:13-14, Matthew 17:10-13. This is also mentioned in the Old Testament, Malachi 4:5. Origen, the most learned of the Christian fathers, declared, "Every man receives a body for himself according to his deserts in former lives." 11. Solomon's Book of Wisdom says, "To be born in sound body with sound limbs is a reward of the virtues of the past lives." Wisdom of Solomon 8:19-20, VI 12. Belief in reincarnation is also found in many tribal societies around the world, in places such as Siberia, West Africa, North America, and Australia. Moving to more recent centuries and civilizations, reincarnation has been affirmed by Rosicrucians, Spiritism, Theosophists, and New Age followers. Even more recently, it has even been studied in serious scientific circles at major universities, exemplified by the works of Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker, both at the University of Virginia. Without accepting the concept of rebirth, it is difficult to make sense out of the suffering, chaos, and incompleteness of the world, and hence, many famous Western thinkers believed in this principle. Virgil and Ovid regarded this doctrine as self-evident. The German philosophers Goethe, Fichte, Schelling, and Lessing accepted it. Amongst the more recent philosophers, Hume, Spencer, and Max Muller all recognized it as an incontrovertible doctrine. Among Western poets, Browning, Rossetti, Tennyson, and Wordsworth, to mention just a few, all believed in it. Sri Krishna has previously declared that the wise do not lament. But the fact remains that we do experience happiness and distress. What is the reason for it? He now explains this concept